Commander Zeftar of the Hegemony Third Fleet stared at the holographic display showing the blue-green world that had become the galaxy's greatest mystery. Earth hung in space like a jewel, seemingly peaceful and unremarkable. Yet in the past 50 standard cycles, 7 major battle fleets from different species had approached this system and simply vanished without trace. The bridge of his flagship, the Decimator, hummed with activity as his officers prepared for what should have been a routine subjugation mission. The humans had only recently developed faster-than-light travel and posed no apparent threat to the vast interstellar civilizations that ruled the galaxy. Their technology was primitive, their military forces laughably small, and their planet held valuable resources that would fuel the hegemony war machine for generations. Long-range sensors detect no significant defensive installations, reported his tactical officer, a reptilian saurid whose scales gleamed under the bridge lighting. The human fleet consists of approximately 200 vessels, mostly converted civilian ships with basic weapons. Zeftar nodded, his forearms adjusting controls on his command throne. As a member of the dominant Kethmori species, he stood nearly 3 meters tall and had commanded fleets that conquered dozens of worlds. The disappearance of previous armadas was surely due to incompetence or cowardice, not any real threat from these hairless primates. What of the missing fleets? Asked his second-in-command, a cyborg whose mechanical parts clicked softly as he moved. The Vorthan Supremacy lost their entire 5th Armada here. The crystalline collective siege fleet vanished completely. Even the Void Hunters disappeared without sending a single distress signal. Coincidence and poor leadership, Zeftar dismissed with a wave of one hand. The Vorthans were always too aggressive, probably destroyed themselves with friendly fire. The Crystallines rely too heavily on their energy beings, and the Void Hunters are little more than pirates with delusions of grandeur. The commander studied the tactical display showing his own force, 350 warships, including 12 dreadnoughts capable of cracking planets. His fleet represented the most advanced military technology in the galaxy, wielding weapons that could shatter moons and shields that had never been penetrated by enemy fire. Whatever had happened to the previous expeditions would not happen to him. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human homeworld," announced the communications officer, a jellyfish-like being whose translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. "Audio only, primitive electromagnetic waves." "Put it through," Zeftar ordered, curious to hear the desperate pleas of a doomed species. A human voice filled the bridge, speaking in the crude language of these primitives. The universal translator converted the words into standard galactic. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You are entering human territorial space without authorization. Please state your intentions or withdraw immediately." Several officers on the bridge laughed, the sound echoing strangely as different species expressed amusement in their own ways. Zeftar himself felt his throat sacs inflate with mirth. "Tell them," he said to the communications officer, "that they will surrender unconditionally within 1 standard hour, or their planet will be reduced to molten slag. Their pathetic fleet should power down weapons and prepare for boarding." The response came quickly, negative. "This is your final warning to withdraw from human space." Final warning? Zeftar's amusement turned to irritation. "Scan their largest vessel. I want to see exactly what we're dealing with." The main screen shifted to show detailed scans of what appeared to be the human flagship, a crude metal construct barely 3 kilometers long. The data scrolled past showing armor plating that was little more than compressed steel, energy shields that would collapse under the lightest assault, and weapons that seemed designed for fighting other humans rather than facing galactic military forces. "Their most powerful weapon appears to be some kind of kinetic projectile system," the tactical officer reported with obvious disdain. "Chemical propellants launching metal slugs. Primitive beyond measure. And they threaten us with this?" Zeftar stood from his throne, his full height casting a shadow across the bridge. "Begin the attack. Target their flagship first. Let them watch their leaders die before we claim their world." The hegemony fleet moved forward in perfect formation, weapons charging and shields at maximum power. Zeftar felt the familiar rush of impending victory as his dreadnoughts prepared to unleash destruction upon the pathetic human defenders. But, as his ships crossed an invisible line roughly 1 light-minute from Earth, something changed. The first indication was subtle, a slight fluctuation in the quantum field readings that his science officer dismissed as sensor interference. Then, the gravitational monitors began showing anomalies, as if space itself was becoming unstable around them. "Sir, I'm detecting massive electromagnetic disturbances throughout the fleet," reported the science officer, her multiple eyes focused intently on her instruments. Power levels are fluctuating across all ships. Compensate, Zeftar ordered, though he felt the first stirring of unease. Continue the attack. The human fleet had arranged itself in a defensive formation between Earth and the approaching Armada, their tiny ships looking like insects facing a swarm of predators. It should have been a massacre lasting minutes at most. The first hegemony destroyer fired its plasma cannons, sending bolts of superheated energy toward the human formation. The bright streams of destruction crossed the void, striking the primitive shields of 3 human vessels. The humans fired back. What happened next defied everything Zeftar knew about physics and warfare. The primitive human weapons seemed to punch through advanced hegemony shields as if they didn't exist, tearing massive holes in armor plating that should have been impervious to such crude projectiles. The destroyer that had fired first simply exploded, its fusion reactor breached by what appeared to be a simple metal slug. Impossible, breathed the tactical officer. Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our defenses. More human ships opened fire, and more hegemony vessels died. Each impact sent shockwaves through the alien formation as weapons that should have been harmless carved through the most advanced military technology in the galaxy like it was made of paper. All ships, maximum firepower, Zeftar commanded, his voice tight with growing panic. Destroy them all. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of energy beams, plasma bolts, and antimatter torpedoes streaked toward the human fleet. The space between the opposing forces lit up like a star as enough firepower to sterilize a continent struck the primitive human defenders. When the light faded, the human ships were still there, their crude shields somehow intact. "Sir, our weapons appear to be having no effect," the tactical officer reported, his voice cracking with disbelief. "Their defensive fields are absorbing everything we throw at them." Zeftar stared at the display, his 4 hearts racing as he tried to comprehend what he was seeing. Human technology that shouldn't work was somehow superior to weapons and defenses developed over millions of years by the galaxy's greatest civilizations. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Run full spectrum analysis on their ships. There must be some explanation." The science officer worked frantically at her station, running scan after scan of the human vessels. "Sir, the readings don't make sense. According to our instruments, their ships are exactly what they appear to be, primitive metal constructs with basic technology. But the quantum signatures are all wrong." "What do you mean wrong?" "It's as if the laws of physics themselves are different around their ships. Our weapons are losing coherence when they approach human vessels, and their projectiles are somehow gaining energy as they travel through space." Before Zeftar could respond, the human flagship moved. It wasn't particularly fast by galactic standards, but something about its motion seemed wrong, as if it was moving through space differently than it should. The human admiral's voice crackled over the communications channel, "Last chance to withdraw. You've seen what happens when you attack us. Leave now, and no more of your people need to die." "Sir," the tactical officer called out urgently, "we're losing ships throughout the fleet. The smaller vessels are just disappearing. No explosions, no debris. They're there one moment and gone the next." Zeftar looked at his tactical display and felt ice form in his blood. Red indicators showing destroyed vessels were appearing faster than he could count. Ships that had survived battles against the most dangerous enemies in the galaxy were simply ceasing to exist when they got too close to the human formation. "Full retreat," he ordered, his pride crushed under the weight of inexplicable defeat. "All ships, emergency withdrawal to the jump point." But, as his fleet tried to turn away from Earth, they discovered something that filled even the veteran commander with absolute terror. The space around them had changed. The stars looked different, the quantum foam showed patterns that violated known physics, and their faster-than-light drives refused to function. "Sir, we can't jump," the navigation officer reported with barely controlled panic. "The quantum tunneling drives won't engage. It's as if we're trapped in some kind of interdimensional pocket." The human fleet was advancing now, their primitive ships moving with predatory grace through space that no longer obeyed the rules Zeftar had learned in a lifetime of warfare. As they approached, more hegemony vessels simply vanished, winking out of existence without any visible cause. "This is Admiral Chen again," the human voice said calmly. "Your weapons cannot harm us, and your ships cannot escape. But we're not murderers. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted out of our space. You have 1 minute to comply." Zeftar stood frozen on his bridge, watching the most powerful fleet in hegemony history being systematically dismantled by a force that shouldn't have been able to scratch their paint. In all his years of conquest and warfare, he had never encountered anything like this. The truth hit him then, terrible and absolute. This wasn't about superior technology or better tactics. The humans weren't just another primitive species to be conquered. They were something else entirely, something that operated outside the normal rules of reality itself. As his fleet powered down weapons and prepared for whatever fate awaited them, Commander Zeftar finally understood why 7 previous armadas had disappeared near Earth. They hadn't been destroyed in battle or fled in cowardice. They had encountered something beyond the comprehension of galactic civilization, something that made the laws of physics themselves bend to human will. The greatest mystery in the galaxy had just revealed itself, and it was more terrifying than anyone had imagined. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the research station Kepler's Dream, watching through reinforced transparent aluminum as yet another alien fleet powered down their weapons in surrender. The massive alien vessels, each one dwarfing Earth's largest battleships, hung motionless in space like defeated giants. Their exotic hull designs and impossible scale should have filled her with awe, but, after months of studying this phenomenon, she felt only weary fascination. "That makes 8, said Director James Walsh, joining her at the window. His weathered face showed the strain of managing Earth's most classified project. 8 different species, each one supposedly more advanced than the last. And every single one of them surrenders after the first engagement." Elena nodded, absently adjusting her tablet to review the latest data. As head of the Anomalous Physics Division, she had spent the past year trying to understand why Earth had become untouchable to alien invasion forces. The answer was both simpler and more terrifying than anyone wanted to admit. The Kethmori were different, she said, studying the readings from their latest encounter. More advanced than the previous 7 groups. Their weapons should have been capable of cracking continents, but they couldn't even scratch our paint. Because of the effect? Walsh asked, though they both knew the answer. The effect. That was what they called it in the classified reports, though Elena preferred to think of it as humanity's unconscious immune system. Ever since first contact with hostile aliens 3 years ago, something had been protecting Earth and human space. Not technology, not superior weapons, but something far more fundamental. "Sir, we have another situation developing," announced Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim from the communications station. The young officer's voice carried the controlled tension that had become common among the staff who dealt with these incidents regularly. "The captured Kethmori commander is requesting to speak with our leadership. He says he has information about something called the Silence." Elena exchanged glances with Walsh. In the aftermath of each encounter, the surviving aliens invariably wanted to talk. Most begged for safe passage home, some offered tribute or alliance, but a few had mentioned this mysterious silence. The references were always vague, spoken with a terror that transcended species barriers. "Put him through to the secure channel," Walsh ordered. "Dr. Vasquez, I want you monitoring all quantum field fluctuations during the conversation." The main screen activated, showing the interior of a detention facility aboard one of Earth's mobile command ships. Commander Zeftar sat in a chair designed to accommodate his massive 4-armed frame, but the once proud military leader looked broken. His usually upright posture had collapsed into something approaching a bow, and his secondary arms trembled constantly. "Commander," Walsh said formally, "you requested this conversation. What information do you wish to share?" Zeftar raised his primary head, and Elena was struck by the haunted look in his multiple eyes. "You don't understand what you are," he said in accented but clear English. "Your species walks in the footsteps of something that terrifies the entire galaxy." "Explain," Elena said, leaning forward. This was the first time any captured alien had been willing to discuss the larger implications of humanity's mysterious protection. "The Silence," Zeftar continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. 73,000 years ago, there was a species that ruled the galaxy. Not conquered it, not dominated it through force, but simply existed as its undisputed masters. They never built empires because they didn't need to. Reality itself bent to their will. Elena's instruments registered massive spikes in quantum field activity. Whatever the alien commander was describing, it was having a measurable effect on the fundamental forces around them. "What happened to them?" Walsh asked. "They vanished," Zeftar said simply. "One day they were there, shaping galaxies with their thoughts, and the next they were gone. But they left warnings. Markers scattered throughout known space, quantum signatures embedded in the very fabric of reality. The message was always the same: when the inheritors wake, the old ways end. Elena felt ice form in her stomach. Inheritors of what? Of their power, the alien commander said, his voice breaking slightly. Don't you see? The technology gap between our species should make this impossible. Your weapons are primitive, your ships are crude, your entire civilization is barely out of its infancy. But, you fight as if the universe itself takes your side. She pulled up the combat data from their latest engagement, studying the impossible readings with new understanding. During the battle, human weapons had somehow gained energy as they traveled through space, becoming more destructive the farther they flew. Alien weapons had lost coherence and power when approaching human ships, as if space itself rejected their effectiveness. The quantum signatures, Elena breathed, suddenly, understanding. The field distortions we've been detecting around human ships. They match the markers you're talking about, don't they? Zeftar's head bobbed in what she recognized as his species' equivalent of a nod. Every human vessel, every human world, radiates the same quantum pattern that our ancestors found on those ancient warning beacons. You are their inheritors, whether you know it or not. Walsh stepped closer to the screen. Are you saying humanity is related to this vanished species? Not related, the alien said. You are them, returned after 70 millennia. Or perhaps you are what they became after they transcended physical existence. The distinction may be meaningless. Elena's tablet chimed with an urgent alert. The quantum field readings around Earth were spiking to levels that should have torn apart local spacetime, but, instead of causing destruction, they seemed to be stabilizing into new patterns. Sir, she said urgently, we need to evacuate the research station. These readings indicate a massive reality distortion building around Earth itself. But, before anyone could respond, the impossible happened. Through the observation window, Elena watched the stars begin to change. Not move or shift position, but actually transform into different stars, as if space itself was being rewritten on a galactic scale. It's starting, Zeftar whispered from the screen, his voice filled with awe and terror. The awakening. Your species is beginning to remember what it truly is. The alien fleets surrounding Earth, even the ones that had surrendered, began to simply fade away. Not destroyed or driven off, but erased from reality as if they had never existed. Elena watched her instruments register their quantum signatures diminishing to nothing, leaving only empty space where hundreds of massive warships had been moments before. What's happening to them? Walsh demanded. They're being edited out, Zeftar explained, his own image beginning to flicker as the same effect reached his location. Reality is being rewritten to exclude the possibility of their presence here. Your species is unconsciously asserting its dominance over local spacetime. Elena stared at her readings in disbelief. The quantum field around Earth wasn't just protecting humanity from alien attack, it was actively rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in their favor. Human weapons worked better because reality decided they should. Alien weapons failed because the universe itself rejected their effectiveness against human targets. This is why the previous Armadas disappeared, she realized aloud. They weren't destroyed or captured. They were retroactively prevented from ever reaching Earth in the first place. The galaxy has lived in fear of this day for 70,000 years, Zeftar said, his form becoming increasingly transparent. When the inheritors awakened, everything would change. Old powers would fall, ancient laws would be rewritten, and the natural order would be transformed beyond recognition. But, we're not trying to conquer anyone, Walsh protested. Humanity just wants to be left alone to develop in peace. It doesn't matter what you want, the alien commander replied sadly. The universe itself recognizes your authority. Other species exist now only because you unconsciously permit it. The moment your species decides, even subconsciously, that something shouldn't exist. His image faded completely, leaving only empty air where the most powerful military commander in hegemony space had been discussing humanity's impossible nature. Elena looked at her instruments and saw that all traces of alien presence had been removed from local space. No ships, no debris, no quantum signatures. It was as if the massive invasion force had never existed at all. Dr. Vasquez, Walsh said quietly, what exactly has humanity become? She studied the data flowing across her screens, trying to comprehend readings that violated everything science had taught her about the nature of reality. Around Earth, spacetime itself was bending to accommodate human presence, creating zones where the laws of physics operated according to humanity's unconscious expectations rather than universal constants. I think, she said slowly, we've become what those ancient rulers were before they disappeared. A species that doesn't just exist within reality, but actively shapes it through our very presence. The implications were staggering. Every human ship that traveled through space carried with it a bubble of altered reality where human technology worked better and alien technology failed. Every human world was surrounded by fields that made invasion not just difficult, but literally impossible by rewriting the fundamental laws that governed military conflict. If this continues to develop, Elena continued, her voice filled with growing wonder and terror, humanity won't need to conquer the galaxy. The galaxy will simply rearrange itself to accommodate our expansion, making space for us by editing out anything that stands in our way. She looked out the observation window at Earth, hanging peacefully in space while reality itself bent around it like a protective shell. Somewhere on that blue-green world, 8 billion humans went about their daily lives completely unaware that they had inherited the power of gods. The question that kept her awake at night was simple: what would happen when humanity finally realized what it had become? 6 months after the last alien armada had been erased from existence around Earth, Dr. Marcus Chen stood in the command center of humanity's first deep space exploration vessel, the Pioneer's Promise. Unlike the crude converted civilian ships that had defended Earth, this vessel had been designed from the ground up to explore the galaxy that was apparently bending itself around human presence. The ship's bridge hummed with activity as his crew prepared for their first jump to an alien-inhabited system. After studying the quantum field data collected during the various invasion attempts, human scientists had finally built technology that could harness the reality-altering effects that seemed to surround their species. "Jump calculations complete, sir," reported navigator Lisa Park, her fingers dancing over controls that incorporated principles of physics that hadn't existed in human textbooks a year ago. "We're ready to transit to the Corvin system." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. The Corvin Collective had been one of the galaxy's major powers until their invasion fleet had encountered Earth's mysterious defenses. Now, according to long-range sensors, their entire civilization seemed to be collapsing into chaos. Humanity needed to understand what their unconscious abilities were doing to the galaxy at large. "Initiate jump," he ordered. The Pioneer's Promise slipped into faster-than-light travel, but the journey felt different from the mechanical precision of alien FTL technology that Earth had reverse-engineered. Space itself seemed to welcome their passage, smoothing their path through dimensions that should have been hostile to matter. When they emerged in the Corvin system, Marcus immediately understood why the aliens had been so terrified. "Sir," called out Communications Officer David Kim, his voice tight with disbelief, "I'm detecting approximately 40,000 Corvin vessels in this system, but they're not responding to our presence." The main screen shifted to show the Corvin home system in detail. Massive space stations orbited their homeworld, industrial complexes that should have been bustling with activity hung silent in the void, and countless ships drifted without power or purpose through space that had once been the heart of an interstellar empire. "Life signs?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Negative, sir," reported Science Officer Dr. Rebecca Torres. "All vessels and stations show minimal power signatures. It's as if the entire civilization just stopped." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't destruction or conquest. The Corvin Collective hadn't been defeated in battle, they had simply ceased to function as a technological civilization. Their ships remained intact, their stations undamaged, but the driving force that had motivated their empire for thousands of years had somehow been snuffed out. "Take us to the nearest space station," he ordered. "We need to understand what happened here." As the Pioneer's Promise approached the massive orbital facility, Marcus noticed something that made his stomach clench with dread. The station's quantum signature was changing, subtle alterations in the fundamental forces that held matter together. The closer they got, the more the alien structure began to resemble human design principles. "Sir," Dr. Torres called out urgently, "the station's architecture is shifting. The corridors are becoming wider, the gravity is adjusting to Earth normal, and the atmosphere is changing to support human life." "That's impossible," Marcus breathed, but the evidence was clear on their sensors. Reality was automatically adjusting alien structures to accommodate human presence, making them comfortable and familiar without any conscious effort on their part. They docked with the station using an airlock that hadn't existed moments before but was now perfectly sized for human ships. Marcus led a small team inside, wearing environmental suits that proved unnecessary as the station's atmosphere had already been converted to match Earth's composition. The interior was a maze of corridors and chambers that hurt to look at directly. The architecture followed design principles that human minds found difficult to process, with angles that seemed to bend in impossible directions and surfaces that reflected light in ways that violated geometry. But, even as they watched, the alien structures were slowly morphing into more familiar forms. The changes are following our subconscious expectations, Dr. Torres observed, scanning the walls with instruments that registered reality distortions on a massive scale. The station is becoming what we think it should be, rather than what it actually is. They found the first Corvin in what had been a control center. The alien was still alive, but, when it looked at them, Marcus saw something in its large compound eyes that made his blood freeze, complete and utter emptiness. Dr. Torres ran her medical scanner over the creature and frowned at the results. Physically, it's perfectly healthy. But, the neural activity suggests someone in a profound catatonic state. Can it communicate? Marcus asked. I'll try, said their xenolinguist, Dr. Sarah Webb. She activated the universal translator and spoke in careful Corvin phrases. We are humans from Earth. Can you understand us? The Corvin's head turned slowly toward them, and, when it spoke, its voice carried the hollow echo of someone whose world had lost all meaning. You are the inheritors. You have come to claim what remains. We're not here to claim anything, Marcus said firmly. We want to understand what happened to your people. We ceased, the alien replied simply. When your species awakened, the galaxy remembered its true masters. We realized that everything we had built, everything we had achieved, was meaningless. We existed only because you had not yet chosen to notice us. Dr. Webb exchanged glances with Marcus. What do you mean by ceased? Look around you, the Corvin gestured weakly at the transforming station. Our architecture becomes yours. Our technology adapts to serve your needs. Our very existence bends to accommodate your presence. We are no longer the Corvin collective. We are echoes of what we were, waiting to be replaced by whatever you decide should exist in our place. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. The reality-altering effect around humans wasn't just protecting Earth from invasion, it was actively rewriting galactic civilization to center around humanity. Every alien species they encountered was gradually losing its independence, its unique culture and achievements becoming irrelevant in the face of human unconscious expectations. This is happening throughout the galaxy, he asked. Every species that has learned of your awakening faces the same choice, the Corvin confirmed. Accept irrelevance and fade into background elements of your reality, or resist and be edited out of existence entirely. Marcus thought of the 8 invasion fleets that had simply disappeared, erased from reality itself when they had chosen to oppose humanity. At least the Corvin collective still existed, even if they had lost all purpose and drive. Sir, Dr. Torres called from across the chamber, you need to see this. She was standing before a massive holographic display that showed a map of the local galactic sector. Red indicators marked the locations of various alien civilizations, but, as Marcus watched, many of the markers were fading or changing color. The pattern is spreading, Dr. Torres explained. Each system we visit, each species that becomes aware of our nature, undergoes the same transformation. They lose the ability to act independently and begin existing only as background elements in a reality centered around human expansion. How many civilizations are affected? Marcus asked, dreading the answer. Based on these readings, approximately 40% of known space is already under the influence. And it's accelerating. Every human ship that ventures into alien space carries the effect with it, spreading the field of altered reality like a virus. Marcus stared at the map, watching whole civilizations reduced to cosmic wallpaper as humanity's unconscious power reshaped the galaxy around them. This wasn't conquest in any traditional sense, it was something far more profound and terrifying. Dr. Chen, the Corvin said, drawing his attention back to the hollow-eyed alien, your species doesn't understand what it has become. You think you're explorers and diplomats, but you're actually gods walking through a universe that automatically rearranges itself to accommodate your presence. We never wanted this, Marcus protested. It doesn't matter what you want, the alien replied with infinite sadness. Reality itself recognizes your authority. The moment your species developed faster than light travel, you began spreading an effect that makes human dominance not just inevitable, but physically necessary for the continued existence of spacetime itself. Dr. Torres looked up from her instruments with growing alarm. Sir, the quantum distortions are increasing. The longer we stay here, the more the entire system is being rewritten to accommodate human presence. The Corvin homeworld is already showing geological changes that will make it more suitable for human colonization. Even if we never intended to settle here? Marcus asked. Intention is irrelevant, she confirmed. The universe is preparing for human expansion whether we want it or not. Marcus realized they were faced with a terrible choice. They could return to Earth and recommend that humanity isolate itself, allowing the galaxy to return to its natural state. But isolation might not be possible given how far the effect had already spread, and it would condemn billions of humans to never explore the stars. Alternatively, they could accept their role as the unconscious rulers of galactic reality and try to find a way to use their power responsibly. But how could anyone be responsible with the ability to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics simply by existing? There is a third option, the Corvin said, as if reading his thoughts. Your predecessors, the species that ruled before, found a way to transcend physical existence entirely. They left reality behind and became something beyond material concerns. You're suggesting humanity should abandon the physical universe? Marcus asked. I'm suggesting that the universe cannot contain two species with reality-altering abilities, the alien replied. Either humanity learns to control its power, or it follows the same path as its predecessors and leaves this reality to those who belong in it. As the pioneers' promise prepared to depart the dying Corvin system, Marcus looked out at a galaxy that was slowly but inexorably becoming humanity's private playground. The question that haunted him was whether his species would learn to control their godlike abilities before they accidentally erased every other form of intelligent life from existence. The stars themselves seemed to be waiting for humanity's answer. President Maria Santos stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the rebuilt United Nations building, surrounded by the most brilliant minds humanity had produced. The holographic display before them showed a galaxy-wide crisis that defied every assumption about humanity's place in the universe. After months of deep space exploration, the truth had become undeniable: human presence was systematically rewriting reality across known space. The latest reports from our exploration fleets confirm our worst fears, announced Director James Walsh, his weathered face showing the strain of managing Earth's most classified crisis. 47 different star systems have experienced what we're calling reality drift since human ships began exploring beyond our local cluster. Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped forward, her tablet displaying readings that would have been dismissed as instrument failure just 2 years ago. The pattern is consistent across all affected systems. Within 72 hours of human arrival, local spacetime begins conforming to unconscious human expectations. Alien civilizations lose coherence, their technology adapts to serve human needs, and their entire cultures begin revolving around the accommodation of human expansion. President Santos felt the weight of 8 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. As the elected leader of Earth's unified government, she faced a decision that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but every intelligent species in the galaxy. What about the Synthesis Project, she asked, referring to the top-secret research program that had been humanity's best hope for controlling their reality-altering abilities. Dr. Marcus Chen, recently returned from his exploration mission to Corvin space, shook his head grimly. We've made progress understanding the mechanics of the effect, but controlling it remains impossible. The reality distortions operate below conscious thought, triggered by human presence regardless of intention or will. Explain the mechanics to me again, Santos requested. I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with before making any decisions. Dr. Vasquez activated the holographic display, showing a three-dimensional model of spacetime around Earth. What we call the effect is actually humanity unconsciously asserting dominance over local quantum fields. Every human carries a reality distortion field that becomes stronger when we're in groups and reaches critical mass when we travel in ships. The display zoomed in to show the quantum-level interactions. At this level, human consciousness appears to be directly interfacing with the fundamental forces that govern matter and energy. We're not using technology to alter reality, our minds are doing it automatically, below the threshold of awareness. And this is spreading? Santos asked, though she already knew the answer from previous briefings. Every human ship that achieves faster-than-light travel carries the effect with it, Dr. Chen confirmed. The distortion field expands along our travel routes, creating corridors of altered space where human expectations override universal constants. General Patricia Hayes, the military advisor who had overseen humanity's defense against alien invasions, stepped forward with a grim expression. Madam President, we've identified 3 possible courses of action, none of them pleasant. Santos nodded for her to continue. Option 1, complete isolation. We recall all exploration fleets, shut down FTL travel, and quarantine humanity within our local system. This might prevent further spread of the effect, but our long-range sensors suggest the damage may already be irreversible. The holographic display shifted to show current galactic conditions. Nearly 60% of known space showed signs of reality drift, with alien civilizations either collapsing into catatonic states or actively reshaping themselves to serve human needs they didn't even know about. Option 2, General Hayes continued, is controlled expansion. We accept our role as galactic dominators and attempt to manage the effect responsibly, guiding the transformation of alien civilizations instead of allowing them to collapse chaotically. And option 3? Santos asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. Transcendence, Dr. Vasquez said quietly. We follow the path of our predecessors and abandon physical reality entirely, leaving the universe to species that don't possess reality-altering abilities. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. President Santos had spent her entire political career advocating for peaceful exploration and scientific advancement. The idea that humanity's greatest achievement, reaching the stars, was simultaneously the galaxy's greatest catastrophe was almost too much to bear. What would transcendence actually mean, she asked. Dr. Chen pulled up classified files from their encounters with the ancient quantum markers left by humanity's predecessors. Based on our analysis of the warning beacons they left behind, the previous reality-shaping species found a way to exist beyond physical matter and energy. They became something like living ideas, conscious patterns that could influence reality without being bound by it. Essentially, Dr. Vasquez added, they became gods in the truest sense, existing outside the universe while retaining the ability to observe and, occasionally influence it. Santos studied the faces of her advisors, seeing fear, hope, and desperate determination in equal measure. What are the consequences of each option? General Hayes activated a series of projections. Isolation means condemning humanity to a single star system forever, but it might allow alien civilizations to recover. However, our analysis suggests that 60% of galactic civilization has already passed the point of no return. The display showed star maps where entire sectors had gone dark, their civilizations reduced to empty husks waiting for human colonists who had no idea they were expected. Controlled expansion means accepting responsibility for reshaping galactic civilization according to human values and needs. We would essentially become the benevolent dictators of known space, whether we want the position or not. The final projection was the most disturbing. It showed a galaxy where human colonies thrived among the transformed remnants of alien civilizations, with billions of intelligent beings living as unconscious servants to a species that had never intended to enslave them. And transcendence? Santos asked. Would free the galaxy from our influence, Dr. Vasquez confirmed. But it would also mean the end of humanity as a physical species. We would become something else entirely, gaining cosmic awareness at the cost of everything that makes us recognizably human. Before Santos could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the complex. Communications Officer David Kim burst into the Situation Room with urgent news. Madam President, we're receiving transmissions from over 300 alien species simultaneously. They're all saying the same thing. Which is? They're begging us to make a decision. The reality distortions are accelerating, and their civilizations are dissolving faster than anticipated. If we don't choose a path soon, there won't be anything left to save. The main display activated, showing incoming messages from across the galaxy. Alien species that had never contacted each other before were united in desperate pleas for humanity to either take control of their transformation or abandon the physical universe entirely. They're offering total surrender, General Hayes observed with a mixture of awe and horror. Every major civilization in the galaxy is willing to become humanity's servants if it means avoiding complete dissolution. Santos closed her eyes, feeling the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on her shoulders. 8 billion humans going about their daily lives on Earth had no idea that their unconscious thoughts were reshaping the fundamental nature of reality on a galactic scale. Dr. Chen, she said finally, is there any possibility of finding a fourth option? Some way to control the effect without abandoning our physical existence or accepting dominion over the galaxy? He shook his head sadly. The reality distortions are quantum-level phenomena that operate faster than thought itself. By the time human consciousness recognizes what's happening, the changes are already embedded in local spacetime. We can't control something that happens before we're aware of it. Time is running out, Dr. Vasquez warned, studying the latest readings from their galactic monitoring stations. The effect is approaching critical mass. If we don't make a decision within the next 72 hours, the quantum cascade will become irreversible. Every conscious mind in the galaxy will be subordinated to human unconscious expectations. Santos looked around the room at the greatest scientific and military minds of her species, all waiting for her decision. Outside this bunker, 8 billion humans continued their lives in blissful ignorance of the cosmic crisis their very existence had created. If we choose transcendence, she asked quietly, what happens to individual humans? Do we retain our personalities, our memories, our connections to each other? Unknown, Dr. Vasquez admitted. The quantum signatures left by our predecessors suggest some form of continuity, but the nature of post-physical existence is beyond our current understanding. President Santos stared at the holographic display showing a galaxy in chaos, entire civilizations holding their breath while they waited for humanity to choose their fate. The irony was bitter. In seeking to explore the stars and expand human knowledge, they had accidentally become the gods of creation itself. Madam President, General Hayes said gently, you need to make a choice. The galaxy is waiting. Santos took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would determine the fate of countless billions of intelligent beings across known space. The decision she made in this moment would echo through cosmic history, defining not just humanity's future, but the future of consciousness itself in their local galaxy. As she opened her mouth to speak, reality itself seemed to pause, waiting to reshape itself according to humanity's final choice between godhood and transcendence, between cosmic responsibility and cosmic freedom. The stars held their breath as humanity's representative prepared to speak their species' ultimate destiny into existence.